Hello and welcome to this webinar on AQA, Power and Conflict Poetry. We are looking at a poem, The Extract from the Prelude by William Wordsworth, and by the end of the session you'll be able to understand the poetic form and structure and link this to the key ideas and themes, understand the imagery and poetic devices, and also understand the context. Now, to some extent this is quite a simple poem, and however, Wordsworth draws our attention to the obvious frailty of humanity compared to the power of nature. Now, at the start of the poem, there's a sense of freedom because a boy steals a boat. Straight, I unloosed her chain and stepped in and pushed from the shore. The freedom is this escape from everyday life and this wonderful opportunity to row the boat. However, he confesses that he's stolen the boat. So it was an act of stealth, which means theft, and his pleasure was a troubled pleasure. So this oxymoron really foreshadows the fact that it's not an entirely pleasurable boat trip. And in the middle of the lake, the boy enjoys the serenity and the beauty of nature, and he talks about the small circles glittering idly in the moon. However, there's a turning point, and the turning point is where the speaker realizes the terrifying power of nature, and he comes very, very close to a mountain peak, a huge peak, black and huge. And here his sense of tranquility is replaced by an uncontrollable terror, and it's as if the mountain itself has taken its power instinct and upreared its head. And at the end of the poem, the boy is left feeling very weak and very fearful because he's been in the presence of powerful natural forces that are unlike living men. Now, in the poem, Wordsworth really uses language to indicate that change from the boy's sense of energy and sense of power initially to his eventual sense of powerlessness. We start off with these very energetic adjectives and adverbs and these very dynamic verbs to show his youthful power. He's lustily dipping his oars, he's heaving himself across the lake. You can see that verve and vigor. However, many critics would suggest that this is also kind of sexualized language and there are connotations that are phallic, and perhaps he's becoming aware of his own guilt and sin from stealing the boat. His guilt is awakened, and there are other kind of awakenings going on in him. Also, when he's in the middle of nature, we have a very sense of the supernatural and spiritual. The supernatural metaphor, she was an elfin pinnace, which means the boat was small, but elfin is almost as if it's fairy-like and elfish and otherworldly, and it talks about one track of sparkling light. Again, the magic and beauty of nature is intensified. And then we see the shift. Animalistic imagery is incorporated and the mountain is personified. Nature is this teacher standing over him, and it seems almost to growing in stature. The grim shape towered up and dominate him, and it stands between him and heaven. It stands between him and goodness. And then the oxymoron, the repetition of troubled pleasure and the trouble in his dreams at the end of the poem shows the confusion and guilt that he's left with. Now, let's finish by talking about the context of the poem. This was written during the Romantic era, and Wordsworth was part of the Romantic movement. These were radical poets who praised nature and rejected tradition. They refused to obey conventional moral standards. And these nature-loving writers wrote during the Industrial Revolution. They really believed in pantheism. This belief that nature is God and God is nature. And you can see that through this poem, they're saying that they don't need rules and regulations. They don't need society to really help people and this boy who's stolen a boat to work out what is wrong and what is right. I hope that this has helped you to understand the poem. Thank you for joining me.